let's switch to somebody who has, seen these elections come and go, and this Super Tuesday 2024 is not his first rodeo. Happy to welcome in A. Scott Bolden, a veteran Democratic analyst for us here on Fox 5. Scott, good to see you. I want to talk to you about Joe Biden. We kind of focus, running up to this so far on Donald Trump. Joe Biden does have challengers. Marianne Williamson, Dean Phillips, congressman. They're on the ballot. Nobody's really expecting them to, go anywhere. But does the fact that Joe Biden really have not engaged these opponents, has it hurt him at all in this primary season? That he doesn't have his campaign legs underneath him?
I don't think so. I mean, Marianne Williamson and RFK and others in the campaign are more annoyances than anything. He's the incumbent president. He gets 95% of the Democratic vote in all the primaries. He's a leader of the Western world and doing a really good job with leading this country as juxtaposed to Donald Trump and what he's promising. So I don't think it's hurt at all. The problem is that people aren't feeling the results of an economy that is the world's best economy, one, and two, they're fixated, including the media, in all fairness, on his age and or mental acuity, which I don't think are unfair, but they're realities because elections are popularity contests. He's got to figure out how to become more popular and reassert himself with his Democratic base and the coalition that he won with in 2020.
All right, well, doctor, you just issued the prescription there. So what's the cure here? How does Joe Biden become more popular?
Well, he's got to smile more. He's got to be likable. In the end, whether you're young or older, I'm 62 right now, you got to want to have beer with me, as Bill Clinton says. So I don't mind his age. I certainly know he's got the mental acuity, but the reality is, do I want to have a beer with you? It's the age-old piece. And, when he's angry and he's passionate, he tends to look angry and sound angry. He's got this unfortunate gait because of some prior minor health issues. And so we've got to put him in his best light. He's got to talk directly to the voters, not only about what he's going to do, but what he's done in the last 4 years, and remind them of who he is and what he represents to them, as juxtaposed with what the other possibility is, which is corruption and crass and crudeness, and something that makes America not only not the strongest, but makes America nervous on the world stage. This is what this election is about, and America is going to have a choice. And when you put it down to just these two people, whether you like them or not, or want them in the race or not, America's going to have to make a choice. And I'm betting on America choosing human decency over the corruption and the crudeness and the crassness that the GOP represents in their candidate.
Well, look, if you look that good at 62, I'll sign up for that right now because you're doing well, Scott.
But God bless you.
One thing that did happen in this primary season for the Democrats was that they exited Robert F. Kennedy Jr. out of the party, and he's now running as an independent. Some of us are old enough to remember 2000, Scott, where Ralph Nader, who a lot of people chuckled at, wound up playing a pretty pivotal role because Bush and Gore wound up in practically a dead heat, and it was up to the Supreme Court. Was it a tactical mistake for the Democrats to not try to keep Robert F. Kennedy in that primary, force him through the primary cycle, and then ultimately he would not have been able to run later on as an independent this fall and maybe do damage to them?
Well, whether he stayed in the Democratic primary or not is his decision. We couldn't make him stay in the Democratic primary. I'm sure there are discussions going on about him, quote, falling in line because the country's at risk. Same conversations are going on with some of the other possible third-party candidates and organizations who are thinking about fielding a third-party candidate by both Democrats and Republicans, because both sides need this to be a one-on-one. RFK, in many polls, pulls more from the Republicans and Donald Trump than he does from the Democrats because he's a bit of a conspiracy theorist. He's made some statements that seem to be anti-Semitic or insensitive. And so I'm not convinced that he hurts the Democrats by being out there. Yeah. Where he can hurt the Democrats and Republicans is in certain states if he's popular, right? He can pull enough votes to turn those states around. And remember, Biden's got a big challenge with Palestinians and Arab Americans who made up his coalition in 2020. He's got to repair that damage. He's dropping humanitarian aid in Gaza right now, but he's got a lot more work to do in that space because we cannot afford for anyone to leave the Democratic tent based on the polling and based on what's at risk for America with another 4 years of Donald Trump.
Scott, let's talk about that, because in certain states like Michigan, that could be a problem, for the Democrats come the general. Over the weekend, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, was down at the Pettus Bridge commemoration. She said that the administration, now wants an immediate pause on the Israeli war in Gaza. Are those steps going to be enough to quiet, which has been an increasing drumbeat on the Democratic left wing against the Biden policy on Israel right now in Gaza?
Probably not enough initially, but over the next 8 months, there's going to be more to be said about the Israeli-Hamas war and whether we get a ceasefire or not, whether we rebuild Gaza, and what we do with the Palestinian refugees. It's a very complicated and historical challenge for this country or this world in regard to this conflict between the Hamas and Israel. Despite that historical challenge, there's a lot that can be done because, see, Israel cannot continue. They're losing the other world countries, other countries on their side, given the videos and the pictures coming out of Gaza and the collateral damage or the innocence of those who are not part of Hamas. Something's got to give, and then you got to rebuild. And I think if America leads that and Biden leads that he can repair that damage and they will come into the tent. But make no mistake about it, Michigan is at stake, and I don't think he can win the nomination. I don't think he can win the race in November without Michigan. I just don't believe that.
When do you think you'll know tonight whether or not Joe Biden is on the course that he needs to be?
I think when he wins the nomination, when he gets to the nomination, but more importantly, he's going to sweep Super Tuesday. If he doesn't sweep Super Tuesday, we got more challenges than we thought. And then secondly, this week on Thursday, the State of the Union, where he lays out what he's done, he lays out where he's going, and he lays out the contrast between himself and Donald Trump. Maybe not on Thursday, but the State of the Union, but he'll get close to that. And then America's going to have to make a choice and independence. You see, Donald Trump doesn't have enough independents and conservative Democrats to win the nomination right now, I don't think.
Right.
But Biden doesn't have enough independents and young people who are still in this camp. And remember, he's leaking some African-American votes, too. So there's a lot of work to be done. But in the end, America in November is going to choose between democracy or chaos. And I think America, despite all the tests of our democracy, are going to still choose democracy, this great experiment, this challenge of ours that's held together for so long.
Gotcha.
Tested but not unbroken, and that ought to continue.
Hey, Scott Bolden, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining the Light Blue Tie Club today. We love talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Hope you enjoy your Super Tuesday. I know you're going to be glued to your TV as the night goes on. We appreciate it, Scott.